I was absolutely certain. I would have bet my life that Ronald Cotton was my attacker. I couldn't have been more wrong. When Jennifer Thompson pointed to Ronald Cotton in that North Carolina courtroom back in 1984, she had no doubt she was identifying the man who had brutally raped her at knife point. She was articulate, composed, and utterly convincing. The jury believed her, the judge believed her, and Ronald Cotton spent the next 11 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. This isn't a rare tragedy. It's an all-too-common failure of our justice system that continues today. Every time an innocent person is convicted based on flawed eyewitness testimony, two terrible injustices occur simultaneously. An innocent person loses years of their life behind bars, and the actual perpetrator remains free to harm others. The evidence is overwhelming. Eyewitness testimony is deeply flawed, yet it remains one of the most persuasive forms of evidence in our courtrooms. Today, we're going to explore the science behind memory, why eyewitnesses get it wrong, and what can be done to prevent these devastating miscarriages of justice. The numbers are staggering. According to the Innocence Project, eyewitness misidentification has played a role in approximately 69% of the DNA exoneration cases in the United States. That's more than 2/3 of all wrongful convictions later overturned by DNA evidence. In many of these cases, the eyewitness testimony was the primary or only evidence presented against the defendant. Studies from the National Registry of Exonerations show that mistaken eyewitness identification was responsible for roughly 52% of erroneous criminal convictions examined in their research. Legal scholar Edwin Borchardt found that approximately 45% of wrongful convictions in his case studies stemmed from eyewitness mistakes. These aren't just statistics. Each number represents a human being who lost years, sometimes decades of their life for a crime they didn't commit. Behind each percentage point are devastated families, shattered dreams, and lives forever altered. To understand why eyewitness testimony fails so often, we need to understand how memory actually works, not how we think it works. Many people, including jurors, believe human memory functions like a video camera, recording events exactly as they happen and storing them permanently in our brains. This misconception is widespread. Studies show about 63% of the general public believes memory works this way. But cognitive science has thoroughly debunked this myth. According to Dr. Elizabeth Loftus, one of the world's leading experts on memory, our memories are not static recordings but dynamic reconstructions. Each time we recall a memory, we are essentially rebuilding it, making it vulnerable to distortion, suggestion, and contamination. Memory formation happens in 3 stages: encoding, when we first perceive an event; storage, maintaining that information over time; and retrieval, accessing the memory later. At each stage, errors can occur. During encoding, our attention is limited and selective. We simply cannot process everything happening around us, especially during traumatic events. High stress and fear, contrary to popular belief, often impair rather than enhance memory formation. When a weapon is present, victims and witnesses frequently focus on the threat rather than the perpetrator's face, a phenomenon known as weapon focus. During storage, memories aren't preserved in perfect condition like files on a hard drive. They interact with other memories, knowledge, and expectations. Over time, details fade and can be unconsciously replaced with assumptions about what must have happened. Finally, during retrieval, memories are reconstructed rather than simply replayed. This reconstruction process is influenced by suggestive questioning, post-event information, and even the very process of repeatedly recalling the memory. Few cases illustrate these principles more powerfully than what happened to Jennifer Thompson and Ronald Cotton. In 1984, college student Jennifer Thompson was raped at knife point in her apartment. During the terrifying assault, she made a conscious effort to memorize her attacker's features, determined to help police catch him if she survived. After escaping, Jennifer worked with police to create a composite sketch. When shown a photo lineup, she identified Ronald Cotton. Later, in a physical lineup, she again picked Cotton. "I was certain," she would later recall. "I had studied every single detail on the rapist's face. I knew it was him." Based largely on her compelling testimony, Cotton was convicted and sentenced to life plus 54 years. Case closed. except it wasn't. While in prison, Cotton learned that another inmate, Bobby Poole, was bragging about committing the rape for which Cotton was imprisoned. Despite this, Cotton's appeals were denied. It wasn't until DNA testing became available that the truth emerged. In 1995, DNA evidence conclusively proved that Poole, not Cotton, was the rapist. After 11 years in prison, Cotton was exonerated and freed. What makes this case particularly remarkable is what happened next. Jennifer Thompson, devastated by her role in this injustice, sought out Ronald Cotton to apologize. In an extraordinary display of grace, Cotton forgave her. The two formed an unlikely friendship and now work together to reform the justice system. Thompson's experience reveals how eyewitness memory can fail even in the most serious circumstances, and even when the witness is doing everything possible to be accurate. A person who is careful to memorize every detail and be ready to give the police every bit of assistance she can muster. If someone as careful and certain as Jennifer Thompson could be so catastrophically wrong, what does this tell us about eyewitness testimony in general? Multiple factors contribute to eyewitness errors. Let's examine the most significant ones. Stress and trauma. High-stress situations actually impair memory rather than enhance it. The body's release of stress hormones can interfere with the brain's ability to form accurate memories. During a violent crime, victims and witnesses experience extreme stress that can dramatically reduce the reliability of their memories. Weapon focus. When a weapon is present, witnesses often focus on the threat rather than the perpetrator's face. This attentional narrowing means fewer details about the perpetrator are encoded into memory. Cross-racial identification. People are significantly less accurate when identifying individuals of races different from their own. This own race bias contributes to racial disparities in wrongful convictions, with about 42% of wrongful convictions based on misidentifications involving cross-racial identifications. Time. Memory quality deteriorates rapidly. The longer the time between the crime and the identification procedure, the less reliable the witness's memory becomes. Suggestive procedures. Police lineup procedures can inadvertently lead witnesses towards certain choices. If the administrator knows who the suspect is, they may unconsciously provide cues. If the witness feels pressure to make a choice, they may select someone even if uncertain. Even a simple suggestion such as, "I see your eyes lingered on photo number 6. What's going on there?" can be the beginnings of implanting a false memory. Confidence malleability. A witness's confidence in their identification can be artificially inflated by feedback or reinforcement. This creates a particularly problematic situation in court, where jurors heavily weigh witness confidence when assessing credibility. Memory contamination. Information learned after an event can blend with original memories. Media coverage, discussions with other witnesses, or suggestive questioning can all alter memory without the witness realizing it. Confirmation bias. Once a witness has made an identification, they tend to become more convinced of its accuracy over time, selectively remembering details that support their choice and forgetting inconsistencies. The human cost of these errors is immeasurable. Ronald Cotton lost 11 years of his life, years he could have spent building a career, starting a family, and living freely. Others have lost even more. Some exonerees have spent decades behind bars, only to emerge into a world that has left them stranded in the past. The consequences extend beyond the wrongfully convicted. Jennifer Thompson has spoken eloquently about her own trauma upon learning of her mistake. She has described the suffocating, debilitating shame she felt, along with the horrifying realization that while an innocent man sat in prison, the real rapist remained free to attack other women. And indeed, when the real perpetrators remain at large, public safety suffers. In many wrongful conviction cases, the actual perpetrators went on to commit additional crimes that could have been prevented had the right person been apprehended initially. There's also the erosion of public trust in the justice system. Each exoneration raises legitimate questions about how many other innocent people might be imprisoned based on similar errors. The good news is that scientific understanding of these issues has led to concrete reforms that can significantly reduce wrongful convictions while still helping to identify actual perpetrators. Some of the most promising reforms include the following. Double-blind lineup procedures. The person administering the lineup should not know who the suspect is, preventing unconscious cues that could influence the witness. Sequential rather than simultaneous lineups. Showing photos one at a time rather than all at once reduces the tendency to pick the person who most resembles the perpetrator relative to others in the lineup. Clear instructions. Witnesses should be explicitly told that the perpetrator may not be present in the lineup and that they should not feel pressured to make an identification. They need to be informed that it is just as important to exonerate the innocent as it is to convict the guilty, therefore severely reducing the pressure to make an identification. Confidence statements. Witnesses should provide a statement of their confidence immediately after making an identification, before any feedback can inflate their certainty. Recording the process. The entire identification procedure should be recorded, preserving both the witness's initial reactions and any instructions or comments from administrators. Improved jury instructions. Judges can better educate jurors about the limitations of eyewitness testimony and the factors that affect its reliability. Expert testimony. Allowing memory experts to testify about the science of eyewitness identification can help jurors properly evaluate this evidence and dispel popular myths regarding its reliability. Corroboration requirements. Some jurisdictions are considering requiring additional evidence beyond eyewitness testimony for the most serious charges. The science is clear. These reforms work. Research shows they reduce false identifications while still allowing accurate identifications to occur. And encouragingly, many police departments and states are adopting these practices. The Innocence Project reports that more than half of U.S. states have adopted some form of eyewitness identification reform. Organizations ranging from the American Bar Association to the International Association of Chiefs of Police now endorse evidence-based practices for handling eyewitness evidence. The Jennifer Thompson and Ronald Cotton story also offers hope amidst tragedy. Their friendship and joint advocacy have helped drive meaningful change. Their book, Picking Cotton, Our Memoir of Injustice and Redemption, has educated thousands about the pitfalls of eyewitness testimony. They remind us that addressing this problem isn't about being soft on crime or disbelieving victims. It's about creating a more accurate system that convicts the guilty while protecting the innocent. Objectives everyone should support. As DNA exonerations continue to reveal the scope of this problem, the call for reform grows louder. These cases offer a rare window into errors that have likely occurred throughout history, but could never be conclusively proven before the advent of DNA testing. They serve as both a warning about the limitations of human memory and a roadmap for improvement. The path forward requires us to embrace what science has revealed about memory, implement proven reforms, and approach eyewitness testimony with appropriate caution. We need a justice system that values accuracy above all else, one that recognizes the honest mistakes witnesses can make while still honoring their experiences. In Jennifer Thompson's own words, "What happened to me was a tragedy. What happened to Ronald was a tragedy. What happened to the other women who were subsequently raped because the real perpetrator wasn't caught was a tragedy. There is no way to go back and undo the harm that was done, but there are ways to prevent this from happening to others." If you found this examination of eyewitness testimony and wrongful convictions compelling, I invite you to check out our other videos exploring different aspects of the justice system and the work being done to make it more accurate and fair. Together, we can support reforms that protect both victims and the wrongfully accused, ensuring that justice truly serves everyone.